What if the scariest things on Earth aren't on land but hidden deep beneath the ocean? The deep sea is a place of darkness, pressure, and silence, but it's also filled with strange sounds, lost cities, giant creatures, and chilling secrets we still don't understand. Let's dive into 20 deep-sea mysteries that will freak you out and leave you questioning what really lives below. Number 20. Julia Sound. When you think about the ocean itself, one sensation you may not honestly think about all that often is sound. I mean, after all, when you're in the water, there is an eerie kind of silence that is all around you due to the water covering your ears and the pressure, and only certain sounds are going to reach in. We know that animals like whales can emit sounds that reach far and wide underwater, but other creatures, well, not so much. That's why it's such a shocking thing that on March 1, 1999, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded a sound that was unlike anything they had ever heard before. Equally as important, it wasn't simply a sound or even a loud noise. It was a sound that was so booming it could be heard across the entire hydrophone array that had been set up in the Pacific Ocean, which is thousands of kilometers wide. Another thing to note here is that the sound was not brief. It actually lasted for around 3 minutes. As you can imagine, all sorts of people popped out of the woodwork to provide their theories about what the sound really was. Some of them went into truly monstrous territory, including stating that it was proof of Cthulhu, which we should all be grateful was debunked, as we don't need such a god in our world. The official answer to what the Julia Sound was is that the sound emanated from a large iceberg that went aground near or on Antarctica. And if you think about it, given the mass that most icebergs have and the time it would take for it to stop moving, that lines up with the unusual sound and how long it lasted. Then again, nobody can exactly say where the sound had come from due to its wide echo, and so, people are still studying the event to this day. Number 19. The Yanaguni Monument. Long before Cuba had its debate, Japan had arguably the most famous of all via the Yanaguni Monument. This was found by divers upon accident and later dated to be about 10,000 years old. And as you guessed, that's when the debate begins. When you look at the monument, it looks like something that somebody actually built. And there were people in Japan around the time that this could have been made. There are even construction clues that highlight how it was man-made versus being a natural formation. Scientists on the other side of the debate would point out that certain things that point to it being a natural formation are there. You know how it ends, though. As the debate continues, we thankfully don't have to talk about this kind of thing again. Number 18. Cuban Underwater City. Here we have another case of a formation being found in an unsuspecting area and people not knowing what to make out of it. In this case, this was found off the coast of Cuba. It was discovered in 2001 and shocked scientists that the formation, which did appear to be city-like in nature, was about 600 feet below the surface. That would imply that it was part of the mainland at one point and that something had caused it to sink. The head-scratching began when two very different sides offered two very different opinions about what had made the formation. Naturally, some thought that it was simply natural, while others thought that it was man-made. No consensus was ever reached on the subject, and it's not likely going to change anytime soon. Number 17. The Barrel Eye Fish. As I teased in the intro, life in the ocean's depths can evolve in such a way that it truly boggles the mind. And when you look at the barrel fish, you're going to see exactly what I mean. Can you legitimately tell me the reasoning behind a fish like this existing? This is one of the many species of fish that reside in the midnight zone, where there is no natural light. So scientists believe that the transparent head that you're looking at was an evolution to both absorb what light could be found in these depths and ensure that it couldn't be attacked by predators that loom from above. It's a rather roundabout way of going about things, but if it works, well, who are we to argue? Number 16. Adam's Bridge. If you go to India, specifically go to the coastline where Sri Lanka can be found offshore, you'll inevitably wind up looking at the Adam's Bridge. The reason that this is so interesting is that it's a limestone shaw of massive size that actually connects the two nations together. That alone makes it worthy of discussion. However, the debate that continues to rage about the bridge is whether it was made naturally or if it was made by man. The bridge is so special, it's actually mentioned in key Hindu religious texts, which makes it a kind of religious icon of the area. On the scientific side, many have tried to determine how old it is and if it was made by nature, along with how it had formed so perfectly to connect two different areas together. If you need some more insight into how insanely big the bridge is, when the Indian Space Research Organization decided to make a map of the bridge to help get some insight, they found that it was actually 29 kilometers long. To be clear, this is not a bridge you can simply go and walk across, as it is mostly underwater. However, that obviously wasn't the case before, as water levels have risen over the years, submerging the bridge below the ocean's waves. Even still, it remains a key part of India and Sri Lanka, and many still wish to understand its origins and whether others like it are still out there in the world. Now it's time for today's topic. A team of deep-sea divers exploring the uncharted waters near the Mariana Trench has made what they are calling the greatest discovery and mystery of the 21st century. While descending to study rare marine life, the divers encountered a massive, terrifying creature that has left them too shaken to ever return to the ocean. The creature, described as an enormous, alien-like predator, emerged from the darkness without warning. Its body was covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a warning signal, and its elongated limbs moved with an eerie, deliberate grace. The divers reported that its eyes, glowing faintly, seemed to follow their every move, as if studying them. Terrified, the team aborted their dive and returned to the surface, but not before capturing brief footage of the creature. Experts who reviewed the footage are stunned. "This is unlike anything we've ever documented," one marine biologist stated. "It could be a completely undiscovered species, or even something that predates known evolutionary history." The divers, still shaken by the encounter, have vowed never to dive again. The discovery has sparked global intrigue, with many calling it proof that the ocean's greatest mysteries remain hidden in its darkest depths. For now, the creature's identity remains unknown. Number 15. Hot Tub of Despair. This place resides in the Gulf of Mexico, but you're not going to find too many people wanting to get into it themselves, as the despair you'll feel if you do go in is that of realizing that you're about to die. This is a real place, and it's actually not too far from New Orleans by boat. The so-called jacuzzi measures about 30 meters in circumference, reaches about 4 meters deep, and lies nearly 1,000 meters below the surface. So you don't have to worry about just wandering into it on a light swim. What makes the water so bad is the fact that the salt content in it is 5 times greater than the basic seawater that's in the Gulf of Mexico itself. What makes it not mix? It's so dense that the natural waters cannot actually mix with it, creating what many refer to as a cauldron of chemicals. And those chemicals are bad for anyone or anything that tries to get in. For context, just a few of the chemicals you'll find are methane gas and hydrogen sulfide, which can kill plenty of things, including people. Now again, people are not only going to wander into the place, but photos of the area have shown that crab and other underwater life have accidentally gone into this so-called hot tub, and they never made it back out, showing just how quickly death can happen. As for how such an area was even made or constructed, that was because the Gulf of Mexico was once more shallow, and that led to evaporation and salt content being left behind in large amounts. Over time, the water and the pressure led to this brine being created. It is nature at work, both for better and for worse. Number 14. Great White Shark Mystery. Here's one that is both shocking, scary, and may make you glad that you don't go into shark-infested waters all that often. This story begins with scientists who wanted to see the movements and patterns of about a 3-meter-long great white shark. They tagged it and monitored it for some time until, about 4 months later, the black box that they put in the shark to track it ended up on a beach in Australia. After looking at the data, they realized, rather shockingly, that the shark wasn't only killed, it was actually eaten. Something had killed that shark that they were tracking. The next obvious question was, who could have done that? Great white sharks are meant to be the top of the food chain, not the least of which is because of their size and power. However, after looking at the area that the shark likely died in, the answer they came to was that it was eaten by an even bigger great white shark. That's right. Sharks are actually cannibals. Who knew? Actually, everyone did, as there have been certain species of shark previously documented that do go cannibal when they feel the need, and that includes the infamous megalodon from the ancient past. Scientists did note that this scuffle could have happened because the smaller shark attacked the bigger one, or the bigger shark could have just gotten hungry, seen the smaller one, and went, "I could eat that." Number 13. Underwater circles. Up on the surface, we often have to deal with something called crop circles that have had interesting theories as to their origins. However, under the sea, they have had their own circles to deal with. When you look at these circles, you can see why they are out of this world, as you wonder how something like that could form. Well, life finds a way. These circles are actually a kind of mating circle created by puffer fish in order to attract a mate. If they succeed, the female will lay eggs right there in the middle of the circle, and then the cycle of life begins. Number 12. The Gulf of Cambat Ruins. The Gulf of Cambat is off the west coast of India, and during a dig, archaeologists claim to have found ruins of a lost city. Now, that alone would not be all that shocking or even weird, as we have found numerous underwater cities over the years in a variety of places. However, what made this one so special is that there were not only tools located in the Gulf but what appeared to be remnants of city-like structures. One piece of wood that came from one of the alleged structures was carbon dated to be about 9,500 years old. Now, if that is fully proven, it would make it the oldest city ever recorded in the world. The team who made this finding did this dig in 2001 to get more artifacts, and they brought back quite a bit aside from this piece of wood. Amongst the artifacts recovered were pottery shards, weathered stones initially described as hand tools, fossilized bones, and a tooth. Now, that would seem to imply that there was a civilization of some kind in this place. However, not everyone agrees with that statement. First, carbon dating hasn't always been the most reliable way of finding the age of something. Secondly, the method that was used to get many of these artifacts, dredging, wasn't the proper or most efficient way of both getting the artifacts and preserving the area around them. Contamination is something that can skew results. Either way, it becomes a curious piece of history that could change how we look at ancient civilizations, but until we find more proof of the age, it's going to be contested. Number 11. The Octopus Garden. The Octopus Garden mystery was caused by the congregation of about 20,000 octopuses that were found near a geothermal vent. But it goes much deeper than that. This garden was in the midnight zone, and the specific species of octopus were doing something really odd. Not only did they form a garden by having themselves all in one place, they actually wrapped themselves around their eggs in such a way that the parent octopuses were upside down. As you can imagine, scientists were baffled by this event. To be clear, octopuses have congregated in the past to lay eggs and mate, but never like this and never in this kind of place and never to such numbers. So then, what exactly was going on here? After some research, scientists believe that the mother octopuses were using the vents, which provide both warmth and nutrients, to try and speed up the hatching of their eggs. After all, eggs in the ocean are often victims of many predators, as Finding Nemo has showed us. Scientists note that the longer an egg takes to hatch, the less likely it is to survive. And the mothers seem to have picked up on that and are using an underwater hack to try and speed things up. As to how they figured all of this out, well, that's another mystery to solve on a later day. Number 10. The Bimini Road. Sometimes, when people go to look at the ocean or a sea, they'll find something that they didn't expect, and they wonder if they're looking at something that is much more than it appears. The Bimini Road is one such example of that, as this so-called road is actually a set of blocks that can be found in the Bimini Island chain. What has people talking about it over the years is that the location and placement of the blocks makes it seem as though it were an artificial creation. But the answer of who made it is not one that anyone can answer or even tease about. That's why there's been such a clash about what it may or may not be, because many people feel it's a natural formation that looks like a road, and some don't even think it looks like a road at all but more of a wall. Either way, people are still debating its true origin to this day. The Bimini Road was first reported in 1938 by underwater explorer Edward Cassis, who famously predicted that the evidence of Atlantis would be found in the Bahamas. It's located in shallow waters off of North Bimini Island, and that makes it accessible for snorkeling and diving. Some theorists believe that it's the remnants of an ancient civilization and possibly even the lost city of Atlantis. While proponents would argue that the linear and organized layout of the stones is unlikely to be natural, geologists argue that the Bimini Road is actually a natural formation, the result of coastal erosion and tidal forces that have caused beach rock to fracture and settle in a line. Beach rock forms naturally in shallow coastal waters, and similar formations are found in other parts of the world. Number 9. The ancient city of Dvara. You're beginning to understand how many ancient cities are currently submerged. Right, this time we're heading back to India, where many have been searching for the ancient city of Dvara for quite some time. It's not simply one that sank beneath the waves. It was one that was a key religious city for India's ancient people and a key city of pilgrimage. The city was said to have been on the Arabian Sea and was sunk when one of the nation's kingdoms had fallen. Some historians believe that Dvara could be the same city mentioned in ancient Hindu texts, particularly the Mahabharata, where it is described as the Golden City of Lord Krishna. Underwater explorations have revealed structures that resemble man-made walls and stone anchors, suggesting the presence of an ancient harbor. These findings have fueled speculation that the city may have been a thriving port before it was swallowed by the sea. The discovery of pottery shards and other artifacts has added to the intrigue, though their exact origins remain debated among archaeologists. If proven to be Dvara, it would not only confirm the city's existence but also provide valuable insights into the advanced engineering and maritime skills of ancient Indian civilizations. Obviously, people have gone and dove into the Arabian Sea to attempt to find things like artifacts from the city or possibly even the city's foundational walls. However, all discoveries haven't been conclusive. But that doesn't mean the search has ended though, as many indeed want to find the key city for themselves. Number 8. Aian Sea Ruins. Remember earlier when I talked about how there were lost cities found beneath the waves? Greece is a place where such findings have been made, and considering its relationship with the water, that should not be too much of a surprise. The Aian Sea Ruins are the remnants of certain lost cities that were consumed by the sea over the course of history, and some prominent ancient cities that were lost due to this. One of them is the city of Cain. A more popular one is the city of Pavlopetri, which is over 5,000 years old and remains in the water to this day after an earthquake had apparently sunk it. Pavlopetri sits off the coast of Laconia in southern Greece, near the town of Elephon Nissos, and it's believed to be about 5,000 years old. one of the oldest submerged cities in the world and an invaluable archaeological site that offers insight into ancient urban planning and life during the Bronze Age. It was discovered in 1967 by Nicholas Fleming, a marine archaeologist from the University of Southampton, and was later mapped and studied by archaeologists in 1968. It lies just about 3 to 4 meters below the surface, making it accessible for underwater research and exploration, and it covers an area of about 9,000 square meters. It includes streets, courtyards, buildings, tombs, and pottery, all preserved under the sea. Ruins like these and others that have been found in the area point to possibly even more cities being discovered around Greece, but only time will tell if that's true. Number 7. The Milky Seas Effect. When you're out on the ocean, you may expect to see light from the vessel that you're on, potential lighthouses or other man-made areas that you're near, or from the skies above. However, for many centuries, captains have stated that they occasionally come across stretches of sea that were kilometers long that had light emanating from below. One can only imagine how that must have looked to them all the way back then, especially given the superstitions of those times. Fast forward to now, and the Milky Seas effect is something that we're still studying and trying to unravel. If you know your ocean lore, then you know that certain parts of the ocean could light up via bioluminescence, and it's because of microorganisms that reside in the water that cause it. However, as scientists fairly note, those are much smaller sections of water, so it wouldn't be the same effect as those that sailors and others today have seen. Some would posit that it's because of certain perfect conditions that lead to the water lighting up the way it does. Nobody simply knows yet, but if you do spot a Milky Sea, don't panic. Nothing's coming to get you. It's just a natural phenomenon that happens on its own. Number 6. The Antiqua Mechanism. Now we have the Antiqua Mechanism, which was found on a Greek shipwreck, and it truly shook the world upon its discovery. Because this was an analog computer that was made by the Greeks between 150 to 100 BC, so well before the concept of a computer was truly ever conceived. Yet, if you did the right things, you could tell various dates that sailors might need to know, or you could calculate the next time an eclipse was going to happen in the sky. The question and the mystery is, how did the Greeks come up with this thing? Not to mention, how did they build this in that time period and then get it to work so accurately? Nothing else of this nature has been recorded in history for a long time after the mechanism was made. And that really says something. Number 5. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. After that last one, it seems fair that we now talk about something a bit more mysterious and a lot less bloodthirsty. So I'll discuss one of the greatest mysteries of the deep, the Baltic Sea Anomaly. This begins when Swedish divers from the Ocean X team were doing some treasure hunting. That's when they went into a certain part of the Baltic Sea and they found a formation that they couldn't immediately identify. When you look at pictures of the anomaly, you can see why they were hesitant to label it as something natural or man-made. After all, it was clearly at the bottom of the water, and it had to get there somehow. But the way that it was shaped made it look like it was crafted by human hands. It also should be noted that there were some accounts that electronics would shut off as it tried to scan the anomaly, and whether that actually happened or not is up for debate. It does sound kind of cool though. The best guesses here is that it is either a unique glacial deposit of which is truly one of a kind, or it's some kind of volcanic rock that was left there long ago. And yes, it does look like the Millennium Falcon, and you are not the first one to think that. Number 4. The giant Leptophilis. Now I'll talk about something that could be coming to get you if you are not all that fortunate. The giant Leptophilis was a special kind of eel that was first detailed back in 1959. Why am I specifically calling this one out and making it into an eel? Well, that would be because, according to estimates, it's the biggest eel that you would have ever seen. And it's one that dwarfs even some of the biggest ocean creatures in the world. That can be said because one was allegedly discovered near South Africa, and it was said to be 21 meters long. That's quite the big eel. Some scientists have speculated that the giant Leptophilis could be a misidentified or exaggerated account of a known species, such as the oarfish or a particularly large conger eel. Others suggest it might represent a rare or even extinct species, one that has managed to elude scientific observation due to its deep-sea habitat. The deep ocean is notoriously difficult to explore, and many creatures that live there remain undiscovered, adding to the mystery surrounding this massive eel. Eyewitness accounts of the giant Leptophilis have been few and far between, but they all describe a creature with an elongated, serpentine body and a ghostly, translucent appearance. Its size alone would make it a formidable predator, capable of taking down large prey with ease. Whether it's a real creature or simply a legend born from the depths, the idea of a 21-meter-long eel lurking in the ocean is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. And if it can get to be that long, well, that would be a scary thing to encounter in the deep. Thankfully, and somewhat obviously, there is some dispute about that, as details about the eel are still scarce. Though we do know of large things that dwell in the deep, so anything's possible. Number 3. Lake Michigan Stonehenge. In 2023, a deep dive into Lake Michigan revealed a kind of prehistoric structure that had many people thinking about Stonehenge. As you can tell by the rocks themselves and how they're positioned, the comparison is very well made. The age of these stones was estimated to be about 9,000 years old, which would actually make it a formation older than Stonehenge by a couple of millennia. The discovery has sparked intense debate among archaeologists and historians, with some suggesting it could have been a ceremonial site or a gathering place for ancient peoples. Others believe it may have served a more practical purpose, such as a marker for seasonal changes or a hunting ground for large prehistoric animals like mastodons, whose carvings were reportedly found on one of the stones. The positioning of the rocks suggests a level of sophistication and planning that challenges our understanding of early human civilizations in North America. It also raises questions about the tools and techniques used to move and arrange such massive stones, especially in an era long before modern machinery. The fact that the site is now submerged hints at dramatic environmental changes over thousands of years, possibly due to glacial melting or shifts in the Earth's climate. Some researchers speculate that the area may have once been a dry plain or a shallow riverbed, making it an ideal location for early human activity. The discovery has also reignited interest in underwater archaeology, as many believe there could be other ancient structures hidden beneath the Great Lakes. While much remains unknown, the Lake Michigan Stonehenge offers a tantalizing glimpse into a forgotten chapter of human history. It obviously raises questions about who made it, why they made it, and how things changed to where the lake went from dry enough to making the structure to be fully submerged. Number 2. Colossal Squid. Now let's get back to creatures of the deep for a bit, because when you talk about some of the biggest in the ocean, the colossal squid and the giant squid are inevitably going to pop up. These creatures were likely what had haunted sailors at times and led to the belief that the almighty kraken was actually real and that they could crush entire boats with their tentacles alone. The truth is, thankfully or possibly sadly, much more mundane. While the colossal squid is huge, it is not big enough to wrap itself around boats and drag them down to Davy Jones' locker, unless the boat is really small. Most scientists would agree that the colossal squid is about 10 meters in length or maybe just a little bit longer. What makes the colossal squid even more fascinating is its massive eyes, which are the largest in the animal kingdom, measuring up to 30 centimeters in diameter. These enormous eyes allow it to see in the pitch-black depths of the ocean, where it hunts for prey like large fish and other squid. Its tentacles are lined with sharp, swiveling hooks, making it a formidable predator capable of latching onto and immobilizing its prey. Despite its size and power, the colossal squid is rarely seen alive, with most of what we know about it coming from specimens found in fishing nets or washed ashore. The largest recorded specimen weighed nearly half a ton, but scientists believe even larger ones could be lurking in the unexplored depths. The mystery surrounding the colossal squid has made it a subject of fascination for marine biologists and cryptozoologists alike, fueling speculation about its true size and behavior. Its deep-sea habitat, thousands of meters below the surface, makes it one of the most elusive creatures on the planet. The twist is that because it lives in the ocean's depths, we cannot exactly study it all that often, and that leaves it open to interpretation about how it lives and how big that it truly gets. Number 1. Gulf of Mexico shipwrecks. On the surface, you might not think that there's much to freak out about when it comes to shipwrecks. I mean, after all, since basically the first days of sailing, there have been all manner of shipwrecks that have been caused by various factors. Sometimes the boats are not built up to snuff, or they get caught up in intense storms and sink, or they go and hit an iceberg because clearly that boat is unsinkable. Regardless, you'll find shipwrecks all over the world. But when it comes to the Gulf of Mexico, you may be surprised by how many shipwrecks are there and how many people are trying to learn more about them. For example, an expedition that took place in 2018 noted that there are likely 4,000 ships lost in the Gulf of Mexico, ranging from your basic ship of the past to warships and even modern vessels of today. They even note that they can be found in rather shallow waters or in the deepest parts of the Gulf. And that's what makes it so alluring for organizations like NOAA to go and dive around in the various parts of the Gulf and try to locate as many vessels as they can. Over 600 shipwrecks and possible shipwrecks have been discovered in the northern Gulf of Mexico alone, mostly through sonar surveys and water depths of over 2,000 meters. Just as important, many of these vessels were of the historical variety, meaning that they had been there for hundreds of years. Just some of the craft that have been discovered there include some privateer ships from the early 1800s and even some U-boats from World War II. Furthermore, there's speculation that some Spanish treasure ships are still in the Gulf of Mexico, just waiting to be found with much of their riches still on board. Well, that's all from the realm of the ocean and the strange and weird things that have been discovered within it over the years. Which of these tales from the deep struck you the most, and which ones honestly freaked you out? Perhaps you know of another sea story that should have made this list. Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Also, check out the other cool things appearing on the screen, and I'll see you next time.